and it's Wednesday. And I say that not trivially because it seems a lot of days just seem to be blending and merging, and it's really hard to tell the days apart anymore. I also wanted to just take note, it was just 5 weeks ago, a little over 5 weeks ago, that we were at the Hilton Hawaiian Village, 800 or 700 people together doing HISSI. And it was just over a month ago that President Lassner said, we're moving our classes online. So much has happened between then and now. And it's hard to be doing this all the time. So I think we've reached a really very important point in the journey we're all on. I think we're now having a pivot point. I think at this time, we're not so much trying to deal with putting everything online and, oh my God, how are we going to cope with social distancing? I think what we're seeing happening now is turning to look at, okay, now what do we do about what's coming up? How are we going to deal with the impact of this on what happens to us in the immediate future? So the things that I will share with you today are pretty much those kinds of things. They are, now what? Now what's going to happen to us? And all of it is difficult, as you might imagine. Some updates from the system have to do with placement testing. There is a cognitive assessment group that is looking at the options for what to do with placement because AccuPlacer is out of the picture. So there is going to be a recommendation made from this group that is going to have alternative measures. Implementing those things that we already do, which include ACT scores, course grades, but it will also include an additional way to do placement, which will include EdReady. Our campus was not supportive of using EdReady for the placement in English courses, but the committee's overall consensus was to go forward with that. The cognitive assessment group will be making its recommendation to Vice President Erica LaCroix. There are still some questions about how to handle the math placements higher than 100. So I'm going to ask Maria. Hi, Maria, we see you today. I'm going to ask Maria if she wants to just say any updates about placement right now. And I see Sunny's put something in the chat as well.
I have not had any conversations with the VCAAs yet. We'll have our meeting later at 3:30, so I will have more information at that time.
Okay. Sunny, you want to say anything about the testing center?
I'm wondering if Annie is on board, or Blake, are you there? Okay, so speak up if, oh, okay, thanks, Annie. Blake and David went to a meeting on Tuesday at Honolulu Community College, and they're looking at doing remote proctoring using Zoom with AccuPlacer, and they're trying to work out details on the workflow. And then there's going to be another meeting tomorrow, and both of them have already kind of sent us a briefing as to what happened on Tuesday, and then they're going to send us another briefing tomorrow. So we're hoping for a more comprehensive picture, but they already have some pretty good ideas as to how the process might work using AccuPlacer, using Zoom.
Okay, thanks, Sunny. We have also, you've been probably looking and seeing about the CARES money, CARES Act. The campus got a little over $2 million, which will come to us in 2 different installments. The first installment is $1,011,471, which will be direct aid to students. So we had a meeting this morning of the chancellors and Erica and Mike, you and Tammy, about how we might spend that money. It has two purposes. One for immediate COVID-related support and possible retention for fall. So we've been discussing how we might apportion that money, in which way, and how would we give it out. So we will be talking more about that because we haven't nailed it all down yet. But Tammy's going to write something up, and I will be sharing that with Noel folks to talk a little bit about how that might, what their thoughts are on that. It is a lot of money for us, and it is direct to students. The second pot of money will be more facilities, and that will come a little bit later. Okay. You saw, okay, let me get back to budget. Okay, sorry. I'm a little ditzy today, so sorry. My brain is scrambled. Those of you who wait anxiously for your 360 evaluations of the administrators, it appears that the system of evaluation will be changing this year. We don't know exactly how, but it will be somewhat different. So you won't get the usual 7-question, I think. We just know that there's going to be a change. Everything is different, everything is COVID related, but the 360 evals will be coming up in some kind of different way. Let's talk about budget. The messages that we're getting, and you may have seen things also from the governor, save, don't spend. This is not the time to be spending on all of your balances. We need to save the money, especially the money that is not, that is carry overable. I just made a new word. So the money that we typically can carry over, like tuition and fee, RTRF, those kind of things that we can carry over, we should not be spending those down. We need to save the money that we've got because we're going to need it going into the next year. The system is also looking at all of the funding that it spends in different pockets and looking at consolidating those. Like there's co-rec money, there's innovation money, there's all kinds of different pots, and they are looking to possibly consolidate. We need to be also as a campus looking at where we can reduce our expenses, things that we've spent money on in the past that maybe we want to rethink. Subscriptions to different professional groups, for instance. This might be a time to really take a look at those and say, which institutional memberships do we want to maintain and which ones do we think we can forego, because we really do need to reduce the expenditures. Sheldon has a question. What about his proposed cuts with state organizations? I'm sorry, Sheldon, I don't know what you're referring to. Can you explain?
Yeah, I think the governor went online yesterday, or was it this morning? I guess looking at cutting HSTA, HGA employees, their salary. I'm wondering if that came to the table at UH.
That will only trickle down. The governor has to have the first conversations with the unions because he's the one that they bargain with. If the governor comes to some kind of agreement with the unions, then it will come down to the UH as well. So yeah, we did hear that he is beginning those conversations about pay cuts. There's no mention about how much. He has to deal with the unions first, and then again, it will trickle down. Related to that are the constraints that have been placed by the university as a derivative of the governor's message as well about what the state was going to be putting the brakes on. These are the austerity measures that we're going to have to deal with going forward. So the governor and the president had a conversation about what austerity measures might be implemented at the university so that they were aligned with the governor, but maybe a little bit different from the governor, because the university, although it is a state agency, is different from other state agencies in that it does have its own revenue stream. So the president created a document, sent it to his officers, which are the vice presidents and the chancellors of the four-year institutions. Erica sent us a message late yesterday, and I've communicated that message to our admin leadership team and have created a similar memo. So there is going to be a freeze on all new, I'm going to read it from, so if I'm not looking at the camera, forgive me. So there is a freeze on all new UH hires into regular positions, that is permanent positions or temporary positions, using non-extramural funds. So if you have a grant, you may still hire people on that grant, but there is a freeze on all new hires into permanent or temporary state-funded positions. And that's using funding from general funds, tuition and fee funds, RTRF funds, any other special or revolving funds. So there is a freeze. Any exceptions to that freeze must be approved by President Lassner himself and must go through the vice president first. So we would have to present a case to Erica. Erica would have to agree to the case, and it would then be presented to the president. And what we have been told is that there will be few, F-E-W, few exceptions made to that freeze rule. There is a postponement through the next fiscal year, so that is all of next year, 2021, on special salary adjustments for faculty and special compensation adjustments for APTs. This does not touch any promotions. So if you have applied for promotion and you have been approved for promotion, you will get your promotion. This is for special salary adjustments outside of that usual personnel process. There is a freeze on all out-of-state travel using general funds or tuition and fee, which has no impact on Kapiolani because we have not used those sources of funding for travel for the longest time. There is a freeze on equipment purchases over $25,000 and vehicle purchases with non-extramural funding. There's a freeze, it's cold in this room. There's a freeze on all service contracts over 100,000. Again, with non-extramural funding. And let's see, in addition to those constraints that were provided by President Lassner and for which President Lassner has the final approval on any exceptions, Vice President Crow has added another constraint, which is we need to seek her authorization for any renewals of temporary appointments. That is, those faculty or those staff who are on annual renewable contracts. Typically, they get renewed every July 1st. We will need to get her authorization to renew again for the next fiscal year. And any casual hires, any 89-day hires will need to go through Erica as well. Okay, I'm seeing some questions. Let's see. All the way back. Okay, construction was answered. Those positions that are temporary and are filled, but funding, everything that is temporary and on an annual contract needs to get approval, authorization by Vice President. There's a question about lecturers. Lecturers are not in positions, so they are not covered by this freeze. We will be hiring lecturers. They are semester to semester hires. They are hired as needed. If the enrollment merits the hiring of lecturers, then we will hire lecturers. There's a question about contract renewals and tenure and promotion documents. I'm not sure Right now, there are still conversations, I believe, going on, and Maria, I'll ask you to jump in on this. I believe that there are still conversations going on with the union about the extension of probation, the extension of, I don't think there's any extension of contracts. Maria, can you help?
Yes, there is conversation about extension of contract renewals for probationary faculty who are in that probationary period. So they can, I mean, the request or the conversation that's going on with the union is that they have an option to request for a 1-year extension, but still, as I said, it's just still in the discussion part with the union. But they think that, you know, it's going to be approved. Regarding, oh, where was that? Regarding faculty evaluation, if your peer eval was not done before the spring break, then it's okay not to have it in your contract renewal application. But if it was done before the spring break, then you have to include it.
Thank you, Maria. There's a question about the folks that we use intermittently, skills testers in EMS. There's a bunch of people. Those I don't believe are subject to this. Those are less than 19 hours a week, intermittent hires. I don't believe that they're covered by this. This is mostly the 89-day full-time people hires that Erica wants to be making the decisions on. Other questions about the personnel stuff? Mayana wants to know if they're going to need to put in their CES evaluations. Any talk about that, Maria, at all? About not having the student evaluation this semester?
That has not been addressed. I can ask them this afternoon.
Thanks, that would be helpful. Okay, so the last kind of people, we just got confirmation this morning, the freeze also applies to interim positions. So I'm watching Maria. Those folks that are in interim positions are going to be asked to stay as is for the time being. If you have Maria on your screen, you can see her face. She's muted, or mooted, as Grover said. Oh no, Elmo. Erica told us that Elmo had a Zoom meeting and Grover said he was mooted, but that was a joke. Okay, other questions about personnel? Exactly, there are some positions that we have that are vacant. Your executive leadership team is in deep discussions about which ones are we going to be presenting as our requests for exceptions. The ELT will be meeting with Erica tomorrow to have that conversation about what are our very important and critical needs for the vacant positions that we need to recruit and fill. So yes, there are those discussions, but we have been told multiple times that we should not expect exceptions to be made easily, and we should not expect there to be many. There's no, right now, there's no number that says each campus will be allowed one exception. There's no such number, but we have been told that it will be a difficult justification. Is there this documentation regarding these freezes, et cetera, available for the campus? I have sent the memo. I've sent Vice President Lacroix's memo and my memo to the executive leadership team, and they should be sharing that with their subordinates, their department chairs, their main people, which would then be shared with you guys. So At some point, I would expect by the end of today, everybody will have seen the hard copy memos. And I asked in particular for this memo to be disseminated through the communication chain so that it is official, so that it is understood that any communication going back should be coming back to me through that same chain. So from me to the executives, from the executives to the department chairs, and the department chairs to the faculty and staff in their units. And if there's any conversation, it should come back in that same way. This is policy, this is official. So that's the way we like to have that information go out. It's not going to be a secret. It will get to you, however. If you, by the end of today, if you don't have it from those official sources, please do let me know and I'll nudge. The question for requesting casual hires, I don't believe the request has changed. The approval has changed. Is summer overload still going to be approved if already submitted? It should be approved before the work happens. And if it is necessary for instructional purposes, then that should go forward. There has been no discussion that Erica would need to approve overload. That is, supervisor has to approve overload. Let's see. Other questions about? This is all that I really have to share with you in terms of information going forward. The implications of all of this are huge, of course, you understand. 2 people got their $1,200 checks. Sonny, which 2 people? Students?
One student and a friend of mine.
Oh, from the federal government?
No, the friend of mine is, she works for the hospital system on Kauai. And the other one is a graduate student at Manoa.
That's not CARE money, though. That's not from the CARES Act.
No, no, I'm sorry for that misunderstanding. The graduate student was furloughed, so he filed for unemployment. So I think
Okay.
it's through that. Apology for that misunderstanding.
Oof. Okay. Yeah, we know that there are needs, and I know that I think I'll ask, if Noel is on the call, I'll ask him to talk a little bit about the emergency relief fund that has been given out, and any other student affairs updates. Noel.
Yeah, so I can give a quick update. We are moving into round 3 of the urgent student relief funds. Based on the new allocation, our school has about $14,000 to award to students yet. This will most likely be the last round, as all the money will probably be allocated after this round. And I don't know if new money will be coming in from UH Foundations, but I think at this time I'd like to thank the people who was on the committee. So Joyce Tokuda, Mickey Crutchfield, Tracy Arakaki, and Angela Coloretti-McGough on their work to basically review a lot of these things and award. Oh, also, sorry, I forgot Cynthia from cashier's office to kind of go ahead and award all of these students, because it was a crazy amount of work with such little guidance that changed almost on a daily basis. So I appreciate everybody's help around that. But I think with the timing of it all, I'm hoping that the urgent student relief funds will kind of go down just in time when students are now receiving their stimulus checks and the college starts to create that proposed plan of how we're going to allocate that CARES Act money going forward. So if students didn't get anything from these rounds from the urgent student relief funds, there is money coming from the CARES Act.
That's right.
But that's all updates I have for now.
Okay, thanks, Noel. I know Brian has to leave at 1:30 for another meeting. Brian, is there anything else you'd like to share with the campus?
No, I sent out a pretty comprehensive email yesterday. Just, I continue to just say thanks to everybody, patience and, understanding in this time. So that's it. I guess I guess many people on this Zoom right now are not part of the CAC list. So I'll send some of what I sent yesterday via campus blast, email blast. But it largely just talked about the purchasing deadline, which was last Friday. Some of the obligations we have as P card holders at the end of the year and things of that nature. Boring but important stuff. But I will send the pertinent things via campus email blast. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Maria, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I just want to let everybody know, especially the faculty, about the Top to Go program that's being run by the institutional developers people. And I think they're now open. They just released or talked about it at the CAC yesterday, but I would definitely recommend it, especially for those faculty who have not or who just had that 1 week of preparing for an online class, which was our spring break. So since summer is also going to be online, I would recommend that you do this Top to Go program.
Thanks, Maria. Okay, let's go down to deans. Nawaa?
No, I just wanted to thank all the faculty and staff for all the work that they're doing right now. I can only imagine what it would be like teaching online, especially when you're not familiar with it. But also thanking Jamie, folks, and Lee, and all the volunteers that was sent out on the list yesterday. Awesome job. Thank you so much. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Nawaa. Lisa?
Hello. I echo everything that Nabaa said. We are truly in some unique times, and I know everyone is working double time trying to keep up with all of this, and we really do appreciate the efforts, but even more so our students appreciate those efforts. Within the health, we have had some conversation related to the grading of the credit, no credit for our prerequisite courses. And basically, if we don't have direct information from our accreditors that a letter grade is required, then what we would be doing for our selection process is any student who elects credit as opposed to a letter grade would be the grade of a C would be used in the calculation process. So I think we've disseminated that to everyone, but just in case someone hasn't heard that yet. So if you do have something that specifically states an accreditor says that a letter grade is required, then we will allow students to use the credit, no credit, and that would still apply to courses within the professional track as well. And to be clear, it's not related to what we have stated in the past. It's what we have to have from our accreditors. In other words, the only one in the system that's been approved at this point to deviate from that is the Vet Tech program. And they have a direct response from their accrediting body that says that letter grades are required, and pass-fail credit, no credit was not acceptable. So unless we have that type of documentation, that's where we'll sit with that. That's pretty much the most recent update for this week in health.
This Week in Health sounds like a good TV show. Carol?
Yes, I'd like to let everyone know. Yes, I'd like to let everyone know that continuing education is working from home, but they are definitely working very hard on trying to get things ready to put online. Some things are already prepared for that to deliver in the summer, throughout the summer, and we're looking forward and expecting that, we're going to have to do more in the fall. I would like to let everyone know too that I'm working with Joanne and others to try to get information ready to submit to WIOA, which is the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act list, to have both credit and non-credit classes. And we really want, we're looking for online classes that Kapi'olani can put on there which would then qualify to be covered by funding for WIOA funding. And we've got to have that ready by May. There is a deans and directors meeting of the continuing ed people. It's a Zoom tomorrow at 3 o'clock to 5, at which time we'll be hearing from Sally and Stan about apprenticeship programs, as well as probably from Tammy. And then we'll hear more about what's been developed and, you know, some revenue share models. And then finally about the Destiny Credley matter that we're trying to get settled, because we do want to offer badging. And then finally, I understand that Kapiolani, we will be part of a pilot test for Department of Labor for online course delivery, but you know, I can't share much more than that at this point. But anyway, and I want to thank everyone for being supportive of continuing ed, and for the continuing ed people for keeping their heads up and working hard. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Okay, anybody else in the field of 135 people? Anybody else like to share? Bob Vega wants to share. Sorry, Carol, I'll get back to you. Bob?
Well, thank you, Chancellor. I wish I could share something, but it's good to be part of the meeting. Oh, I could share that I'm healthy. I haven't gotten sick, so that's a good thing. Actually, it's a quick question about summer registration. We've been holding our clinical classes from any students registering because we haven't been able to work out with the clinical sites when they can return to clinical in the summer. The worst case scenario is that they won't be able to return, which we hope doesn't happen. But in the event that we either have to start late or not at all, how do we manage the clinical classes as far as registration for students in the summer, because they're dealing with things like financial aid, VA benefits, and all that needs to be taken care of before the summer starts?
Oh, you're right. It's totally complicated. My guess, Bob, and I know that Dean Raddick has been working on this. The governor, I think, is going to be the one to determine when people can start going back to where they work and live and play, once he lifts that work at home, stay at home order. I don't know if he's going to do that before April 30. April 30 was the time frame that he had his pronouncement. The clinical sites, I believe, are very difficult. And you guys in particular who have a set schedule for fall, set schedule for spring, set schedule and set of courses for summer, have the most challenges. And I think that if we could get the most important people to sit in a room, that would be Dean Raddick, and program faculty, program coordinators, and financial aid, and anyone else like the registrars, if that is a cross-functional team that could sit down and talk about what are the implications if we do it this way, what are the implications if we do it that way. There are curricular implications, there are student support implications, there are all of those things tangled up, and no one set of people can make that determination without having everybody else in on that conversation. So I suspect that as we get closer to summer, we'll see more definitive context come around. So I cannot answer your question right away, and I know that it's actually program by program, and I know that Lisa's been thinking about that and working with the faculty too. So thank you for making sure that all of us are aware of how complicated the situation is for you guys.
Is there, one last question, is there a drop dead deadline that the courses have to be offered at all in the summer?
That all depends. I think you can make adjustments for parts of term. I know that by May 15th, that's the date that was held out there to determine whether or not we will be allowed or able to put on face-to-face classes in second summer session. So that's one milestone date, May 15th, for second summer. And that might play into your plans as well.
Thank you very much. I'll get with Lisa.
Okay.
Louise?
Yeah, I
As a-
got it, John. John Richards, sorry, skipped over you.
That's okay. I just wanted to echo again that, you know, times of crisis really brings out the true character of folks, individually, as a community, as a nation. And Kapiolani Community College has great character. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, John. Susan J.
Because you were talking about, people were talking about the union earlier, I got a letter from Christian Fern on Friday talking about the 20%. Would it be okay if I just read it?
Sure.
Okay.
If it's not privileged.
No. It says, I've been in discussions with President Lasner and Provost Bruno, and they have been clear that retrenchment is not being considered at this time. There's an understanding that they would need to engage in discussions with UPA if retrenchment needs to be invoked. There's a great deal of misinformation out there. I've been in meetings with the other public sector union leaders, and we are in a much better position than others because we have some open lines of communication with the UH administration. The governor and his directors are talking about needing to cut the budget by 20%. I'm unaware that anything specific has been shared with UH at this time. It's my understanding that any budget cuts would be disseminated across the board to the different departments. UH has historically had more discretion than other departments in their implementation of budget cuts because of alternative sources of income. Speculating without having anything specific will do nothing except for increasing already high anxiety. That's likely the best message at this time. So that's from the union.
Right.
At least as of Friday.
Yes, I've not been told of any new developments since then, except that the governor is talking to the unions and they are talking about pay cuts. No number has been agreed upon at this point, that's for sure. But there is really a lot of talk about a 20% reduction in budget allocations, appropriations to the different state agencies, which includes us. We don't have a number. All we know is that we can expect some very steep reduction in our appropriation, and that we will be needing to make good as best as we can based on the funding. Again, we, the community colleges, have a system that helps us level the playing field a little bit and looks out for the campuses to be sure. For us, we will have extra challenges because of our international student population, and the degree to which we can enroll those students is going to be really important for us. So that's still in the works. Anyone else like to share?
Yes, Louise, this is Joanne.
Yes, Joanne.
So, you know, our students have endured a lot, and so the commencement committee is really working on things to really celebrate our graduates, even though we're not having a face-to-face commencement ceremony. So we're really hoping that, for one of the things we're thinking of doing is having a Padlet, which is each department, not each department, but they'll have certain program pages where students, faculty, family, and friends can send their congratulatory messages through text, photos, videos, and just a place to just celebrate our graduates. And I'm looking at Dave Evans, you know, so it's like, for instance, a host page. So maybe Paula Kiko can get on and say, yay, you know, on a video, you know, so we're just trying to do something to really, this has been an extraordinary semester for students. So let's celebrate our graduates, you know. And then we're having a commencement meeting on April 23rd, next Thursday. It'll be at 3 or 3:30. We found there's another meeting that I might want to shift this meeting. But if you have any ideas, please shoot them to me. We have some face-to-face ideas for a real commencement. So more will be revealed.
Thank you. Anyone else have something they'd like to share?
Louise, it's Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi. Capillo News is still publishing their online newspaper. And so if any of you have stories that you'd like them to feature, or if you're doing anything kind of exciting in your classrooms, please email them. They're still looking for story ideas. And so if you have any ideas, you can email them at capillo@hawaii.edu, and I'll send that out in the chat box.
Thanks, Sherry.
This is Roman. Wanted to tag along with Sherry. The Board of Student Activities is doing a lot of online programming for the rest of the semester. So they'll be having a Call of Duty Warzone online tournament this Friday that's open to all college students on Hawaii. And then we will also be doing movie screenings as well. And then a trivia tournament. And then I believe, and then an Instagram like show your mask off contest. So people who want to show, like just post pictures of what their COVID mask is looking like or ones that they've made and things like that. And we'll send those out shortly, either by the end of this week or next week for everyone to see.
Terrific. Can we participate in the competitions?
Oh yeah, you're welcome to. Everyone's
right.
welcome to.
Okay.
Prizes only go to students though.
Oh. Jerry's put something in the chat line. I think you guys should take a look about TB and MMR for summer. Okay, no TB or MMR for summer, and fall TB and all immunizations will be postponed until 8/1/2020. But they're still going to be there. Okay. All right. Thanks. That's helpful. Except for the nurses. Select programs have lots of different kind of rules that apply. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, any other? Yes, I see, Mickey.
I got help from...
You have to get closer to your mic, Mickey, because hardly hear.
Sorry. Jamie Sickler and Christy Malter, thank you so much, and to the counselors and Noel and Maria. We're trying out a Padlet to share both kudos and flags of our students. It's really just a place for students to have a voice through us. It's just an internal Padlet. If you would like to share anything that you feel would be helpful for all of us to know how our students are doing amazing things, or if they're struggling with certain things, then please feel free to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Mickey. And the URL is in the chat box if you guys want to take a look.
Yes, thank you.
I did listen to a Zoom session that the Title III fellows put on, and there was a lot of talk about how to deal mostly with kids. You guys are all home with kids, and how you're struggling to make things not so cuckoo with the kids at home. Anybody want to share any suggestions or tips for keeping your kids engaged? I'm looking at Sheldon. I bet Sheldon's got. Sheldon, you're sitting in front of a cartoon or something, a comic strip.
It's a clip from Pigeon to the Max. But just quick story. My son almost set our kitchen on fire yesterday. So those are the kind of joys that are happening at home. So good times.
Thank you. You have the super mic. Nobody else has a mic like yours. That's because you do podcasts. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share?
Louise, this is Lavashay. Can I make a quick announcement about the food pantry?
Absolutely.
Okay, we're still open. We are going to the food bank tomorrow. We did, in 2 weeks, give out all the food we normally would give out in a month or more. So there is a need. And we just want to remind everyone that it's open for staff and faculty as well. And it's the same URL, and I'll put it up. I just changed you make an appointment weekly. It's Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 12, drive up or drive through, pick up. Thanks.
Thanks, Lavashay. Do you need donations, Lavashay?
We actually need bags. So if anybody is cleaning out and has a lot of plastic bags or paper bags they want to give away, We do need those. Of course, we're accepting donations of anything if you're trying to get rid of it. And even if it's expired, it still may be good. Actually, we're learning a lot about food, and you'd be surprised how much longer canned food is actually good after the expiration date. So,
yeah. So where should people go to donate?
So we're in Iliahi, 231 on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 10 to 12.
Okay. Can they just leave it outside the door?
No, we're in the back of the Iliahi building, so you could drop it off to me. That's where the pickup is for the food.
There's a question about what do you need most?
Canned items, because the food bank is low, and we also have a limited time in there. We used to get an hour down to only a half an hour, and only 2 people in at a time. So 2 weeks ago, we got a little over 1,000 pounds of food, and that's gone. So yeah, anything.
Okay, thanks, Abhishek. Anyone else would like to say something? If you're not on my screen, I can't see you if you're raising your hand, so just jump in. There's a request from Dana. Please provide clickable links for tutor, peer mentor, talk story, etc. sessions in the daily bulletin rather than just relying on the URLs on graphics. Does that make sense to people? I hope so. Dana, you want to explain? No mic, Dana?
Hi, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Basically, when I go through some of these graphics that are being sent out, I love how we have all of these services being provided, except that some of the links there, they are very case sensitive. So when I'm trying to forward them to my students, I have to go out and try to find the, the correct case sensitive URLs before I forward them to my students. So I just wanted to point that out. If you're trying to set up something like that, if you could provide a clickable link for us.
Okay. Are you guys leaving messages? Take that into consideration. Clickable links, please. Other thoughts? John Richards has a question about how many students do come, Lavashay, when the food pantry is open. How many people come, roughly?
It varies. Last week, I think we had about 50 or so, and the week before that, maybe about 70. So we've been getting a lot of new ones, so that's been really great. So the word is getting out, and we had a lot of staff come today. They didn't think it was for them, so really happy that we could provide that service. So if anybody, you can also pick up if you have a loved one that needs extra food, you could pick it up for them as well. So
you're not checking IDs?
We do have to do an intake form, so you'd have to put their name down, but we do have, like, Roman picked up for some students, so they signed up, but she did the pickup for them. And then, like, Nikki's been delivering to some of our students because they can't physically come to campus.
Wow. That's really generous, Mickey. Thanks, Lavashay. Other thoughts?
Louise?
Yes, Maria?
I just wanted to let, especially the health science folks, remember, because Robert's question earlier about how to proceed with them not being able to do the skills testing and all of those other things that need to be done in order to finish the course. We're not the only ones struggling with that one. All the other community colleges are struggling with the same issue. So we had a meeting earlier today just to share what the people are doing, but we all agreed that we could not do anything until we actually find out what exactly is going to happen after April 30th.
Yeah. I think there's something like 93 courses that were not able to be completed as scheduled. because they involve some hands-on component that just cannot be done remotely. So there's that many people in suspended animation right now.
Yeah. Some courses are actually been suspended, stopped.
Mm-hmm. They can't go forward just because they're doing automotive. They can't get to the engines and all the other kind of things. Yeah. Yeah. Other concerns? Any messages you'd like to share? Is the CARES Act funding for students available for continuing ed students? Yes, that was shared this morning, that there is going to be funding available for continuing ed students through the CARES Act. Yes. And again, we're trying to figure out how best to implement the distribution of the funding. Maria, did you want to say something? Okay. Will these Zoom meetings continue Wednesday and Friday, 1 p.m.? Yes. Believe that we will be doing that every Wednesday, every Friday. Achieving the Dream website. Yeah. I think there's going to be lots of people watching lots of YouTube things as well. Okay, anything? You probably have seen in multiple ads, if you get the newspaper or on the TV, it's about, we're all in this together. And it is absolutely the case. We couldn't do what we do now without each other, even though we're 6 feet apart at the best of times. I was just having a conversation with Jennifer Bradley earlier today about how much we all desperately want to hug people and how difficult that is because we cannot. And it's you're at the place where like, can I hug you? So here, this is for you. Take a moment to say goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Louise.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Ahui ho.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.